The tampon king gets back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on D&I.
But I'm thinking there's only one explanation for Tim spewing nonsense like this. Time of the month.
What happens when a smug TV host runs head-on into a governor who looks permanently mid-panic? You don't get a debate. You get Greg Gutfeld reducing Tim Walz to political confetti. From the first strike, Gutfeld turns Minnesota's leadership into slapstick. Less policy, more pratfall, spinning Walz's record into a roast that feels like a demolition derby with no breaks. Blink and you miss another hit. The jokes land colder than Walz's approval numbers, and every second exposes the same truth.
Tim Walz continues to be criticized for embellishing his rank in service. After it came out over the weekend, he once claimed to be an official bikini inspector. Walz's direct superior in the National Guard says Walz knew his unit was about to deploy to Iraq and went behind the back of his superior officer to resign. When reached for comment, Walz yelled, "Hey, look over there," and then ran away. Although Walz's actions look bad to veterans, Dems say these revelations could really help him win the coward vote.
This isn't governance. It's managed mediocrity, performed badly. Oh, Tim Walz. If leadership were a buffet, he'd be the lukewarm mashed potatoes nobody asked for. Bland, unnecessary, and somehow still taking up space. Then Greg Gutfeld steps in with sarcasm like a chainsaw in a fireworks shop, slicing through Walz's blunders with ruthless precision. This isn't governing, it's performance art, and not the clever kind. It's messy, awkward, and unforgettable, the kind of spectacle that leaves you wondering how it ever passed inspection.
Exploited his military background to cover up his crime. He said it was related to his service and that he actually wasn't drunk. He just misheard the instructions in the drunk test. He blew a super high level. It was like, 0.2, driving 100 miles an hour. And then when he's running for office, he said that he wasn't drunk. I mean, this guy has creep written all over it. He created a snitch line, but lies about his personal infractions. He doesn't even own up to it. This is a guy who pushes a hoax about a sex on a couch, and then the closer you look at him, he's a creepy cuck.
If you are enjoying this takedown, please hit that like button and subscribe us, because what follows isn't spin, it's exposure. Tim Walz running Minnesota feels like watching a substitute teacher lose control of a room full of caffeinated raccoons. He talks like someone who skimmed leadership for beginners and called it a governing philosophy. The delivery is confident.
I saw just recently Donald Trump's executive order to make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote.
Wait, so Trump is making it more difficult for women to vote? How so? Math problems? But it's further proof that the most dangerous thing for a leftist is a follow-up question, which is why you never hear any. But I guess questioning elections is okay now. But the best moment came when Walz forgot who he is.
The results are catastrophic, and the outcome is painfully clear. The land of 10,000 lakes is being steered straight toward the land of 10,000 self-inflicted disasters. Greg Gutfeld didn't even have to try. Roasting Tim Walz is like dunking on someone who showed up to a job interview wearing Crocs and a blindfold. Walz wandered onto the stage armed with a kazoo and a whiteboard that just said the feelings, then looked shocked when it backfired.
Walz is a strange dude.
Oh, he's strange.
He is strange. Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
He called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, "My house is being surrounded by people with American flags." I said, "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" He said, "I think they're going to attack me." This was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. You know, they like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000. He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before Truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement. He's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. Yes. He said it was a miracle. He said it was a miracle.
He served himself up on a platter labeled extra, crispy, while Gutfeld carved him apart with ease. Walz brought glitter glue and a participation ribbon to a knife fight and acted surprised when it ended exactly how everyone expected. Let's talk results, because vibes don't pay bills. Tim Walz looked at inflation, businesses fleeing, and a squeezed middle class and decided the cure was more taxes. Tax the workers, tax the employers, tax the air if you can measure it. Companies didn't debate it, they ran. Minnesota started looking like a cautionary tale with snow. Then came crime, where Walz's strategy feels less like enforcement and more like group therapy. Blame society, soften the language, hope criminals discover empathy on their own. Greg Gutfeld tore into it mercilessly, turning rising crime stats into punchlines and exposing the core problem when leadership treats public safety like a feelings workshop.
Went on the same bad cocaine, but Kamala can't speak, he can't speak, Biden was so high he couldn't remember anything. Like, this is literally the dumbest administration of all time. Why is he talking?
It really is the ultimate clown show. And I said this in the 5. He's a clown without a circus.
He doesn't even need makeup.
He's roaming the terrain. Is there some carnival that I could work for? Yeah. I'll wash your windows.
He's a rogue clown.
Yes.
Who is just an inconsequential footnote to vice presidential history.
Yes.
No one will remember his name on trivia night, and that's going to be in 3 months from now.
The only thing protected is incompetence. And Gutfeld didn't stop there. And Gutfeld didn't stop. Weaponized the numbers. He turned Minnesota's crime stats into a running gag, painting a state where carjackings feel like local traditions, and leadership responds with press conferences and buzzwords. Tim Walz comes off like a mall cop trying to stop a riot with a clipboard and a calming voice. Then education took its turn in the shredder. A former teacher, somehow overseeing classrooms where math takes a back seat to trendy slogans and accountability is treated as cruelty. Greg Gutfeld landed it clean. Under Walz, students aren't being prepared for the real world. They're being trained to be permanently offended while standards quietly disappear. Then came COVID, and this is where the mask slipped completely. Tim Walz treated the pandemic like a personal power drill, shut down small businesses, fined churches, dragged bar owners into court, while protests magically became essential.
I'm especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Dude, you're an old white guy. And you're right, you are a huge disappointment. I guess hating himself is the first thing he's nailed correctly. Because Walz saying old white men suck isn't a political stance, it's his confession. Walz calling people old and white is like Maxine Waters making fun of someone for shopping at Wigs R Us. He wants to execute more DEI policies. And Trump wants to execute murderous gang members. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see the difference?
Apparently, the virus checked party affiliation before spreading. Greg Gutfeld feasted on the hypocrisy, pointing out that Grandma's bingo night was outlawed, but mass demonstrations got a free pass and a police escort. That wasn't public health. It was selective enforcement wrapped in moral posturing. And when Minnesota ended up with a massive budget surplus, Walz didn't return it to taxpayers. He spent it like monopoly money at a government garage sale. More agencies, more consultants, more bureaucracy, proving that when given extra cash, his first instinct isn't relief, it's expansion. And this is where the hypocrisy turned into a full-blown spectacle. Greg Gutfeld almost seemed amused watching Tim Walz torch a historic budget surplus like it was free casino chips. Minnesota had more money than it needed, cash taken straight from taxpayers who were already struggling under inflation, and Walz's instinct wasn't to return it, ease the burden, or fix core problems. No, he treated it like found money.
Says that Walz lost, but one of them, Politico says, it's like Walz's wide eyes showed his passion and emotional intensity. Can we show that? There is his wide eye. That humans would widen their eyes to convey that danger is close. What emotion are you getting from that?
Sorry. Still. That was every.
New agencies, new consultants, new programs nobody asked for, all justified with the same recycled buzzwords about equity and progress. Gutfeld nailed the visual. Giving Walz a surplus was like handing a toddler a credit card and trusting him not to swipe it. Every useless project suddenly became essential. Every regulation urgent. Every expansion of government moral. Red tape didn't just grow, it metastasized. In Walz's Minnesota, bureaucracy isn't a side effect of governance. It is the product. You can't open a lemonade stand without a permission slip, a compliance seminar, and a virtue pledge. Gutfeld's point cut deep because it was undeniable. This isn't competence, it's compulsive overreach. Walz doesn't see excess government as a problem to solve. He sees it as a lifestyle to defend, even if it strangles productivity, innovation, and common sense in the process.
Tim Walz vomits more nonsense.
I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Maybe it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. This is a weak, cruel man that takes it out and punches down on people.
Wow. Oh. Jamie.
What a
Painful,
douchebag,
huh?
Greg. That was absolutely painful. He was the keynote speaker at this conference. Can you imagine having to watch more of that?
And then Gutfeld went for the jugular. He pointed out Walz's bizarre obsession with copying California, specifically Gavin Newsom, like a starstruck intern mimicking the boss who's already burned the building down. Walz watches California bleed jobs, implode under crime, drown in regulations, and somehow thinks, yes, let's do that, but colder. Higher taxes, fewer opportunities, and the same recycled slogans, just delivered in snow boots. Tim Walz struts around pretending to be a progressive savior while importing every West Coast failure like it's a clearance sale on bad ideas. Greg Gutfeld skewered the comparison mercilessly, saying if Newsom is a glossy shampoo commercial with the ego of a Bond villain, then Walz is the understudy who wandered on stage halfway through and started improvising nonsense. It's cosplay leadership, copying the aesthetic, ignoring the wreckage, and acting shocked when the audience starts booing.
So the tone of the media was one of sadness, not reporting Walz's loss, but mourning it. Now, the truth is that a VP debate is like a colonoscopy. It's important and necessary, but that doesn't mean you want to watch it.
Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Even a deer in the headlights is screaming, "Get the out of the way, dude!" It's no wonder they don't do follow-up questions with Democrats. They're like the top layer of day-old skimpy bean dip. What's underneath? You don't want to see.
And when infrastructure came up, the whole thing crossed from bad policy into outright fantasy. Tim Walz talks about billion-dollar transit dreams like a man who's never hit a Minnesota pothole at highway speed. Bullet trains, grand visions, glossy renderings, projects with timelines so long they sound like science fiction. Meanwhile, the actual roads look like a live-action Mario Kart course. Blown tires, cracked axles, and drivers bracing for impact every morning. Greg Gutfeld absolutely dismantled this nonsense, mocking the idea of pouring mountains of cash into rail fantasies while basic infrastructure collapses in real time. His point landed clean. This isn't visionary leadership, it's escapism. Walz would rather sell taxpayers a futuristic brochure than fix what's right in front of them. Big promises, distant payoffs, zero accountability. Classic government vaporware. Under Zay's, infrastructure doesn't mean roads that work. It means expensive ideas that photograph well, fail quietly, and leave voters stuck paying for repairs that never seem to come.
Meanwhile, Kamala's VP, Tim Walz, is being accused of lying about his rank, which is called stolen valor. But in Walz's defense in Minneapolis, stealing is legal. But But misrepresenting your past for political gain? I don't see that as a problem, said one woman.
When the heat turns up, Tim Walz doesn't answer questions. He evades them with choreography. Press him on crime exploding across Minnesota, and he spins into bike lanes, community healing, and abstract compassion. Push him on inflation and shrinking opportunity, and suddenly it's a sermon about feelings, equity, and the emotional trauma of asphalt. This isn't leadership under pressure. It's interpretive policy theater, complete with TED Talk pacing, buzzword bingo, and PowerPoint slides no one asked for. Greg Gutfeld skewered it perfectly, calling Walz a magic 8-ball in orthopedic shoes. Shake him hard enough, and the answer is always the same foggy jargon, never a decision. And then there's the branding, the forced folksy act, the farm dad cosplay that collapses the second he opens his mouth. Walz struts like he's one with the working class, but his version of roughing it is almond milk without a paper straw. He's the guy who shows up to a tailgate with kombucha, asks if the brisket is ethically sourced, and lectures everyone about sustainability while missing the point entirely. Gutfeld's takedown hit because it exposed the truth. This isn't a misunderstood leader or a victim of unfair criticism. This is a governor fluent in slogans, allergic to accountability, and completely exposed the moment the script runs out.
Video of the day, and he's got a very weird way of greeting his wife of 30 years. Roll it. I want to see this in slow motion. You'll see Walz extends his hand to his wife. She grabs it. They shake. He pulls her close and then goes in for that non-friction hug, all the while still shaking her hand. I wish there was a word to describe that. Oh, yeah, weird. I've seen warmer embraces between Chris Christie and a salad.
And this is where it all lands, hard. Minnesota's rural towns aren't asking for TED Talks, hashtags, or lifestyle branding. They're asking for roads that don't eat tires, schools that teach math instead of mood rings, and leaders who understand work that involves dirt under the nails instead of buzzwords on a slide. What they got was Tim Walz, a man who governs like he's pitching a startup nobody funded. He treats policy like a Pinterest board. Assemble later, ignore the instructions, act shocked when it collapses. Greg Gutfeld sealed it with a knockout image that stuck because it's true. Walz is the IKEA governor. Comes in a box, half the screws missing, assembly required, and by the end, you're staring at a wobbly mess wondering where leadership was supposed to go. This wasn't just a roast, it was a diagnosis. Strip away the fleece vest, the faux folksiness, and the moral lecturing, and what's left is oatmeal-flavored governance. Soft, bland, and nutritionally empty. Gutfeld didn't humiliate Walz for laughs. He exposed the gap between branding and reality. And that's the part that stings most, because Walz likely walked away thinking he gave a great talk, while Minnesota is left living with the consequences of a glorified group project led by someone still reading the instructions upside down.